We'll finish at 4:30. Some of you will know him from on the Poetry on the Spot in Bournemouth. He's the poet in residence on the yellow buses. You can often see him sitting upstairs pretending to drive. He's done workshops in locations including a Neolithic henge, a haunted house. I'm not making this stuff up. He performed at Edinburgh Fringe. Here he is, Bob Hill!
Yeah, I have done workshops in the henge, and some girl was with me when we did it. Do you remember when we slept out on that really horrible wet day? But yes. We had a good time, and some great poems came out of it. My set has kind of been informed by today, but I think, you know, a lot of what has been said doesn't need to be repeated, so I've kind of been downstairs chopping poems out, thinking I'm not going to do that. So I will allude to it at some point, but just going to sort of go up and down a bit with different things. This poem is really just about the massive working class chip on my shoulder that means that every time I get the chance to shoehorn in a classical reference, I will. Also, this poem also mentions The Godfather as well, so Godfather and classical references go well together, I think. And it came from a headline that was in one of the online newspapers, so it's on the internet, so it must be true. Okay, did you know that even when cooked, squids can inseminate in our mouths? Once, after eating calamari, a woman reported experiencing the feeling of a foreign body sensation in her less than amused boosh. I like to relate this story whilst queuing at buffets. Or if bored when attending middle-class dinner parties. I wonder what really happened that night that Luca Brasi slept with the fishes. And if it's true that the siren call is really the sound of horny squids. I can't remember, I think it was earlier this year, was the centenary of Edward Thomas's poem Adlestrop, which in my very subjective opinion, I think is the perfect poem. And there was a competition to write a poem inspired by the poem Adlestrop, which I entered and I got shortlisted and put in the book. So this poem is called, it's called Remembering Adlestrop, and I must very clearly state after Edward Thomas, because it really does, you know, you can tell that I've taken it from that poem, so I don't want anyone thinking I've chawed it. So, remembering Adlestrop. I do remember Adlestrop, recited to me on the towpath that day we walked the Charwelt where it meets the Oxford Cut. I teased you to quote me a poem. You cleared your throat in mock drama and spoke perfection as river and canal waltzed their lazy routes. Sitting against the wall of the derelict cement factory, you told me of the blast that stopped his heart, his body left unmarked. And that's when I saw what Thomas saw. In the cow parsley and in the songs and swoops of Oxfordshire's birds, I understood Adlestrop. Thank you. I've got a couple of poems now that really, I suppose, have been informed by what day it is today. I'm kind of conflicted because we did this when I was a kid. You just kind of wore your poppy and got on with it, and I can remember sitting with my nan and granddad who were in the war, and now we just seem to be living in an era of a kind of enforced compulsory patriotism, which I absolutely despise and deplore. But that doesn't stop me remembering the people who got pitchforks into world wars and any other conflicts. So this has got no political significance to me. I could wear this just as I could wear the white poppy, and I wear this happily next to my CND badge with no contradictions whatsoever. But what it does always make me think of is especially my mum, well, all my grandparents, I have to say, it would be unfair to miss out any of my grandparents, they were all in it. But my granddad George in Lenny Ivy, and it just reminds me of them, and it makes me think of them, and especially now that I'll never ever, I can't speak to them anymore. And so this is about where they lived. When they left London, they moved to South Oxley, which was one of the biggest council estates, kind of this side of the Berlin Wall. And the other claim to fame is that quiet fella that's always on the telly. You look a bit like him. Gareth Malone, yeah, sorry, Jack. But, Gareth Malone, he did a programme there based on that estate, and my auntie and my two cousins were in the choir. Sorry, but you do look like him, and they didn't mind you. But this is about my nan and granddad's house. This is called 66 Ilkley Road. Granddad's chair, a seat of silent and benevolent power, from which he'd rise at the end of every visit with a few bob to get yourself an ice cream. The most words he'd utter all day. Nan talking enough for both of them. Nan's chair, a symmetry, a mirror image the other side of the glass-top square thing that served as a resting place for an electric lamp, endless cups of tea, and a knitting bag. Castanets and a little drum with a handle and two balls hanging off the wall next to a photograph taken in June 1953. The radiogram, a cabinet that held records by Sarah Vaughan and Nat King Cole, and the wireless with a tone as rich as the voice of John Arlott. The dial promising the exotic and the faraway, Moscow, Hilversum, Luxembourg and Helsinki. And that photo on the wall, a picture of a lathe-turning, Labour-voting socialist veteran of Salerno and Casino, standing next to the floral tribute he'd planted for the coronation. The back garden, always alive to the sound of clicking and clacking needles as Queen Leah and her three daughters create clothes for new and soon-to-be nieces and nephews. The brief encounter era railway bench, marked with the words rugby station, positioned to catch the all-day sun that drowned the runner bean and Rosefield garden. The hut, the kitchen, where my sister and I would bake cakes with Nan and spar for the licking rights of the bowl and the spatula, where fry-ups and roasts were conjured and created to be dished up on blue and white plates, printed with Japanese garden scenes, promises of ice cream if I ate enough to reveal the cabbage-hidden picture of a man and a lady stood on a bridge. Over 35 years of residence and the right to buy signalled a right to sell and move up to Banbury to be near Regan and Cordelia and their families. Goneril, the last daughter to ever walk past 66 Ilkley Road, rang to tell us the garden was overgrown and the Browns live here sign was gone. The right to buy and that house died. Thank you. It's weird how a building can mean so much, but seeing what was a home become an asset to be sold and bought was quite heartbreaking, actually. My granddad, as it says in the poem, he was a veteran of Salerno and Monte Cassino. He's one of those people that I wouldn't or couldn't talk about the war. When I was a kid, I was all like Action Man and war films and Longest Day and all this, that and the other. And I said to him, I asked him once about Casino with no sense of what had gone on over that period in that battle, which was horrendous. I found out from reading years later how horrendous it was. And I said, as a crass 8-year-old would, how many Germans did you kill? And he looked at me and he just said very calmly, I didn't fight Germans, I fought Nazis. And then got up and walked out. We were on holiday at the caravans, and he got up and walked out. And my nan said, so I didn't. But years later, I pondered on what he meant by, I didn't kill Germans, I fought Nazis, not Germans. And then my nan told me a story after he died about they went back to Italy where he'd been in the war. And this is a true story of what happened, and if there is, a bit like your poem, if there's sort of redemption and recognition of brothers in arms, whatever. But this is called 1966. Divided by a battlefront just over a score of years before, they now mingle in an Italian bar. Today, the noises that float across this valley are the cheers and groans as together they all watch the yeomen of England do battle with the Teutons of Germany on a black and white telly. No guns, no tanks, no artillery, a ball, 22 men, boots, shin pads, 2 linesmen and a referee. And 20-something years before, the counting of the score, which was a butcher's bill, which spread blood over these olive groves and vine-planted hills. But now, 4 goals to 2 signifies the end of a match, not the ending of lives, and prompts the buying of beers and introductions to each other's wives, and alternate verses of Lily Marlene in German and English, a bilingual chorus sung in harmony by raucous former combatants who have come back to make sense of their last visit here. Don't mention the war. Nobody needed to. For them, the war was now over. Couple of minutes, right, let's get rid of that. Okay, right, you have to kill your darlings when you're up against time. I do a lot of poems where I just sit and watch, it's great, it's a good excuse to be a bit voyeuristic, I suppose, but yeah, this was a real situation. It made me laugh and made me want to tell what's left of me a farewell. This is called Nearly Communication. Dad tuts through the Daily Express as Mum reads from a phone screen, both ignoring the Mum, 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 Mummy, Mum, Mum, Mummy, emanating from the child tugging on Mum's sleeve for a full 2 minutes. I timed it. Then patience worn thin, the whole cafe hears, "Beer, stop it, what do you want?" Dad sighs, lays down his newspaper like it's a newborn and says, "It's okay, Beer, Mummy's on edge." Probably someone who doesn't acknowledge his male privilege, I would guess. Right, this story was told to me by one of the there's 3 people in this story. I know all 3 of them, and it was one of them told me that this is a story, and I turned it into a poem. I try to avoid mawkish sentimentality, but I kind of thinking it sneaks in a little bit here. I'm going to slip from this, so hopefully whoever else has had it hasn't got into Right, yeah, everyone had impetigo on my estate when I was a kid. Don't touch that. Right. It's called Like a Kid in a Sweet Shop. Sitting atop the counter of the lollipop shop, anticipating the sharp citrus shock of the lemon drop, the girl with the summer dress on waits for her mum to return from buying cheeses and cakes and drinks in bottles and cans to feed the gathering of the family clan that will descend as planned later that day. And old Mrs. King, purveyor of fine and sweet things, keeps an eye on this slip of a thing, doing the girl's mum a favour and letting her try all the different flavours of red, green, yellow and orange boiled sugar and gelatines and teeth-crunching treats in jars and bottles on the shelf. And when Mum returns, burdened with her bags for life, old Mrs. King tells her that her daughter is so well behaved and was in no way in the way, and how she'd be happy to look after her again any day. And Mum thanks Mrs. King, calls her a lifesaver and proffers money to try and pay for her daughter's sweets at the very least. But her hand is brushed away and old Mrs. King tells Mum that it was a delight to have her, just like it was when you were her age. And Mum cries, and she doesn't know why, but Mrs. King tells her to sit down and stay for a nice cup of tea. and turns to a jar of Mum's favourite sweets and offers one as a special treat. I'm going to finish with two poems. I think I've just spent all time, if that's all right. Is that right, Sid? Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'll leave the political round if I don't need that. Let's go with imagination. We seem to be living in an age where the grad grinds who have been education secretaries pretty much since, and I include New Labour in this, since Thatcher onwards, have been basically telling kids that, or working class and lower middle class kids, don't bother with the arts and the humanities, you don't need imagination, you just need to know how to do things. Imagination is what gave us the Dyson. Imagination is what means that maybe when I'm a very old man I'm going to see somebody land on Mars. Imagination is what means that somebody comes up with the idea of an NHS. You know, imagination is what makes an innovative economy. So to get rid of this idea that you don't need arts and humanities and sport and sciences is just...
And science won't get you a job these days.
Yeah. Well, it just seems to me it's some kind of really awful, elitist social engineering. Let's create an army of workarounds. But this is about imagination, and all you need to know about this is there's two characters in this that are from Irish mythology, very specifically from Munster. There is Anya, who was a bit of a proto-feminist in the fact that she was forced to marry a king of Munster who forced himself upon her and she chopped his penis off. Therefore, validating his right to be king. Brilliant. And then Bran, who's a bit like a kind of Irish or a Munster Odysseus. You know, every now and then he'd shoot off for 20 years, get lost and come back and then we'll talk about it. But anyway, this is the benefits of an Oxford education. Okay. This is called Curiosity. Curiosity is the wonder that will change you into 10,000 butterflies. 10,000 moments of freedom exploring the flowers and aromatic herbs of this life, spreading the pollen of all that is beauty, creativity, fantasy and reality, and making all gardens Eden, all forests a dream on a midsummer's night, all days an odyssey, and all people an Anya or a Bran. Curiosity is the wonder that will change you into 10,000 butterflies. And that's what really happens when you take a bite out of an apple. And just to finish, keeping on with this, I wrote this when the Arts Centre in Boscombe was going to get closed down and eventually, unfortunately, did and got changed into something that's a lot more corporate and waiting to be privatised. And this is called When We Forgot to Sing. When we forgot to sing songs and play, when we didn't dance, our reminder arrived with a chatter of voices as excited as the noise of a children's rhyme, when an exaltation of larks descended to inform us of the ripping in two of Rossetti's song. And as if a joker had produced a polka dot cloth to mop the burning brow of the lady cast in marble, a wood pigeon carried the news further afield, leaving a feather as a calling card, and stopping all celebrations. Time halted, keys failed to unlock, and only inside padded envelopes would we find the directions which would lead us through the maze of broken steps until we again found our unity in music and games. And we did. And we danced, and we sang, and we celebrated. And we swore that never again would we forget to sing our song. Thank you very much.
Yeah!
Let's hope we never forget to sing. I believe the Australian Aboriginals believe that the universe was sung into existence.